PCOS or Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. How it's not talked about. So many things and is wild to me. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to be talking about something known as PCOS or Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. So basically September is PCOS or Polycystic Ovary Syndrome Awareness Month, and so the perfect time to talk about this. I did a video a few weeks ago on endometriosis and I'm just fascinated by women's health and conditions that affect women and obviously trans men as well. Anyone with, uteruses and do get periods and everything. And there is just, like, women's health is just an area as a feminist that I just have to touch on because it is just not treated as it should be. Like, there are so many conditions that we can have that just are not researched, are not funded, are not known about, and therefore are not treated adequately. And so many women just suffer in complete silence with so many conditions, and PCOS is one of them. So I just want to talk about it, talk about, what it is, some of the symptoms, how prevalent it is, just basically just have a conversation. And I think it's one of those things where I feel like people just don't know about this one. I feel like with endometriosis, a lot of people knew about it when I kind of put it on my story and stuff a few weeks ago, but I feel like PCOS, not many people know about it. Again, I'd be interested to know, do you know about it? Have you heard about it before? What do you know? But yeah, we're going to talk about it because it is PCOS Awareness Month and I'm just making more people aware. So let's get started. So I guess what is it? I mean, it is so common. It's called Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. It's thought to be the most common endocrine disorder. It's basically it's metabolic, it's reproductive, it's menstrual, it's all those things. It has so many symptoms when you have it, and it also can lead to so many other disorders, diseases, just conditions later on in life. It's a lifelong thing. It is just so common and has so many symptoms and is so wide reaching, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why it's hard to diagnose, because there's just so many symptoms that you can have. But we'll touch on that. I feel like it's everywhere. I just feel like everyone has PCOS and no one's talking about it, and I'm let's talk about it some more. So again, what exactly is it? And again, I'm not a doctor, so this is just my understanding as a complete lay person. Please tell me if I am violently wrong, but this is my understanding. So basically, I guess it kind of starts with ovulation. So ovulation, normally you would release an egg once a month, and then the egg is fertilized. Ideally, if you're trying to get pregnant, it's fertilized by the male sperm to create a baby, blah, blah, blah. If it's not fertilized, we get our periods. The egg comes out of our body through our periods once a month. And I think with people with PCOS, their hormones might be completely kind of imbalanced, and they don't make enough of the hormones that release the egg. And basically, if the egg is not released, cysts can form on the ovaries, and it obviously is not good at all. Those cysts then kind of, secrete hormones called androgens, and they're basically the so-called male sex hormones. So most obvious ones testosterone, things like that. We women normally have small amounts of those in our body, but not huge amounts. So obviously if they're if these cysts are secreting loads of this of testosterone, etc., that's not normal for us. So it's gonna make our body out of whack and produce different symptoms that maybe just are not good for us. One thing I want to mention as well that I think is important is that it's called Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, and what I just talked about are cysts, but not everyone with PCOS has the cysts. And some people will have cysts on their ovaries, but not have PCOS. So it's really interesting, and again, it just adds to kind of how convoluted the condition is, and so that's kind of an important thing to know. So if you think I have cysts or I have PCOS, you might not, but you might not. Again, it's super wide-ranging, it's super far-reaching, so the exact cause of it, along with so many other conditions that affect women, shocker, is not known, but there are a couple thoughts that maybe it's hereditary. Sometimes if your mother or sister have it, you might have it. If you are overweight or obese, you might have PCOS. Or if you have an insulin resistance, again, I don't know too much about that because that's way too complicated for me, but that might be, if you have an insulin resistance, your hormones will be a bit out of whack anyway because of that, so that might contribute to you having it. But again, none of those things are completely conclusive, and they're just thoughts really. Again, treatment could be surgery, or it could be hormone therapy, or lifestyle changes, diet changes, again, loads of things, and none of them seem to fully cure it, but they might help. So then in terms of like signs and symptoms and like if you think you have it or whatever, so like for most people I think it starts kind of like your teens, late teens, early 20s. You might not like experience anything before that, and then you might all of a sudden start experiencing things and you're like, okay, maybe I have PCOS. What I think is an interesting way to describe it is a constellation of symptoms, because there could be so many things and like not everyone will experience all of them. Some can be really mild, some can be really severe, so it's just complete different for everybody who has it. Some women will not be able to conceive, they'll be infertile. Some might have just menstrual problems, like their periods are irregular or their periods are really painful. Some might have both of those or neither of those or one of each. So it just completely depends on what your body is like. And so this is the really important part, like what a doctor will look for to see if you think you have it. And this is kind of like this, from what I've seen, this seems to be kind of like the world standard, I guess, of like how to determine if you have it. So the first thing is, like, as I mentioned, periods, like irregular periods, regular periods, what's going on with your periods, and just to see. And that will come from like the lack of ovulation. So you're getting your period because you've ovulated. So if you don't get your period, that might mean you haven't ovulated because not enough hormones are being released to release the egg, like I talked about. So that, like, that's where it connects to the period. So that, like, if you haven't got your period, that might show that you haven't ovulated and you could therefore have PCOS. The next one then is for the presence of these androgens, so things like testosterone, etc. And like what they cause. So a lot of times they'll cause things like excess hair growth or like male pattern baldness, so like how men like go bald and stuff and like have the little like line like that, things like that. Just anything that might show that you might have more male hormones in your body. And then the third thing is for the presence of cysts. As I said, like you might have cysts but not have PCOS, or you might have PCOS but not have cysts. So the doctor needs to see two of those three things. So the irregular periods, the kind of like presence of male hormones, and the cysts. So you need at least two of those three things to prove that you have it. So like just having cysts is not enough. I think it's also really important to mention just like the mental health aspect of this condition or disorder. Like anyone will know, like when your hormones are out of whack, like your mental health suffers, like you're all over the place and it's awful. And like coupling your kind of like, you know, out of balance hormones with like the physical symptoms of this, which could be like excess hair growth, which is like obviously like, you know, women are just treated so badly if they don't conform to these feminine ideals, and like having like more hair than like is typically, you know, associated with women. It's just like the worst thing you could ever do. And so like just like your hormones being out of whack, the pressure you face from society, and just like how like weird you might feel because you have a bit more hair than the rest of your female friends. It's just awful. And then coupled with maybe like not being understood by your doctor, or like putting up with like all the symptoms of this thing and it not being taken seriously, or like you not being believed, and like it's just awful. And so again, it just comes down to just like how women are treated in society, but also in our healthcare system. And like just again, we kind of like similar to my endometriosis video, PCOS is just so similar in just how it's treated, how it's talked about, how it's not talked about. And yeah, so in like mental health is just a big one with this. And there have been studies that have shown that like women with PCOS are like a couple times more likely to, you know, kill themselves over women with like that don't have PCOS, or to have mental health issues like anxiety or depression. And it's just like, that's something I just really wanted to like bring up, because it's like it's not like I'm just talking about like, oh, PCOS, like a condition, like it's this stuff is serious, and I'm just like, I just want people to know, so we're talking about it. So then just a bit more on like the symptoms and stuff. There's actually just so many that I have them written here, because it's just wild like how many ways this can affect you. So things like infertility, obviously a big one, like you just simply might not be able to get pregnant. Or then if you can, like risk of miscarriage is huge. It's linked with diabetes a lot. Again, I'm a doctor, so I don't know like the ins and outs of that, but it's really linked with diabetes. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, and then kind of like touching more on like the physical things. So like weight gain, hair growth, acne, things like strokes, things like cancer, and things like heart and liver disease. So like it's not just your like reproductive bits that are affected. It literally can have so many impacts on your life and just your health in general. And it's quite mind-blowing that we don't know more about it. And on that then, like in terms of prevalence, like there's so many different figures, and again, there's just not enough research done on it, so there's not like kind of that much conclusive like just numbers on this. But like a kind of a handy one that I've seen a couple times is like 1 in 10, that it affects 1 in 10 women. Like, just outrageous. One study I saw that it ranged between, like, the global figure could be between 6% and 26% of women are affected by it. So like, this is not like a minor thing that like affects 1 or 2 people. Like one in like, if we go with the 1 in 10 figure, that's 10%. Like, that means you're bound to know someone with I know people with PCOS. Like, it's so common. And so yeah, I'm just delighted that there is a PCOS awareness month for us to talk about it, because it is so common. And I honestly just want everyone to go out into their lives and ask anyone they know, do you know someone with PCOS, or do you have PCOS, or like just to see. And like, me, like, even someone watching, like, you might have PCOS and not know, and maybe this could be like, oh my god, maybe I have it, maybe this is like resonating with you, and you're like, oh my god. So yeah, it's just as with everything I talk about, I just think everything is so important, and I'm just all about the life of discussing things. And again, like, just to talk about like just like cures and stuff, I mean, there just isn't one. Like, again, like, you could have, you know, surgery to remove cysts, but like that could affect your fertility if it's not already affected. Like, you know, if you're worried about the excess hair growth, like, obviously you can get like laser and stuff, but like, that's, you know, you're still suffering from like the internal effects then, and also like the cost of laser, and just like the fact that you shouldn't even have to do that. I mean, if it's purely like aesthetics wise, I mean, like, obviously I totally understand people wanting to get rid of it and wanting to fit in and be normal, but it's like, why don't we as society just understand the fact that like people have different levels of hair growth, and understand that people might have a condition that makes that hair grow, and like be fine with that, and like not mock people or make people feel bad. And it's just like, oh, it's just like the risks that it can lead to later in life is scary. I mean, like, cancer, strokes, like heart disease, liver disease, that's scary. Diabetes is scary. And it's just like, it's just what I think, just, and like, this is all like news to me as well, really. I didn't know about this stuff until recently, and I was just like how far this stretches, and how like big this impacts your life, and just how many things it affects is wild to me. So that is really just kind of a rundown of PCOS. I hope it's given you a bit more of an understanding of what it is. This was very basic. As I said, I'm not a doctor, I don't even know that much myself, but I just wanted to bring it up, seeing as it is PCOS Awareness Month. And as I said, I would just encourage everyone to go out and talk to people in your life and see, do they know someone with PCOS? Do they have PCOS? You know, and just do some more research on it, and just be understanding of the people that have this. Like, say, you know, if you see a woman who is overweight, or who has really bad skin, or maybe has a bit more hair than you would deem like average, like, maybe instead of like mocking that person, maybe be like, oh, maybe they have PCOS, or maybe don't even think about it at all. You know, maybe you don't even need to go to like, oh, let's explain it through that they definitely have PCOS. Like, maybe just understand that everyone has different bodies and hormone levels and different things going on, and it's just, yeah, just to be understanding and more aware. And that is what this video is about. So thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope you learned something. Please comment down below if you think I left anything out, if you have anything else to add, or any good links or whatever. And please subscribe to my channel, like the video, a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in next week's video. Thank you so much, and yeah, happy PCOS Awareness Month. Bye!